And right now, it's after midnight. So I am burning the midnight oil here at the SETI compound. Uh, let's recap Juvenile Future Stars Friday over at Del Mar in the Breeders Cup. And we'll preview a little for tomorrow, and I'll tell you why I'm up at this after midnight hour. First things first, I am a big baseball fan, so when the card was done at Del Mar and I digested everything that had happened, I sat on my couch with dinner cooking in the kitchen, and I made stuffed peppers tonight, by the way. SETI stuffed peppers, delicious. I was watching the World Series. I love my Major League Baseball. I love my NFL, but I'm a big baseball historian, and it's exciting. The World Series tomorrow is such a day because now we have a Game 7 in the World Series tomorrow, and that's after a full day at Del Mar. But it was quite a game. But I know you're not here to hear me recap the World Series game. If you watched it, I'm sure you'll say it was a great game, very entertaining, and Game 7 should be great. But let's talk about everything that happened today at the track. And I know this by default. As a horse player, you will connect with and relate to just about everything I'm going to share. Because Mr. SETI had a very emotional day, a very roller coaster-like type of day, a very gut-wrenching type of day. And, that's what horse racing does to us. It puts us in a position to have a thrill, deal with the ups and downs, and you just got to keep punching. So anyway, prior to the Breeders' Cup races for Juvenile Friday, starting in race 6, of course, I handicapped the whole card, and I was engaged early. And, I have a good following through email transmission, and I had shared, I couldn't write up my whole script for it, but I had shared my undercard precise orders. So the first race was a heartbreaker. Just didn't get it done, but I had horses all over the place that hit the board. But I didn't survive the first race. So it was out of my pick 5, small ticket, after one leg. Because, I didn't use the horse that won in my pick 5. But then I got really hot. I re-energized and I said, I want to hit something. I want to have some action before the Breeders' Cup races started. And I did the work. And then it was good because I caught fire and I was excited. I hit a double, had a nice win bet. Then one race I hit the exacta, triple, and super. And one of the things I talk about often is the first thing you got to hit. By the way, it wasn't the $20,000 super variety. It was a $30 super, but I had $4 on it cold. So nothing wrong with, getting $120 for $4. That's a beautiful thing. Anybody would trade $4 for 120 something, right? But then it happened. I don't know if this affected you guys. So I got a nice bet, alive in the pick 3, alive in a daily double, a robust double, into race 5. I had a horse named Pavlovian. I wanted to make sure I said his name right. I really, really liked him. He's my top choice. Race 5, Pavlovian, J.J. Hernandez. So I'm all getting excited. I'm emotional. And I say, you know what? Wow. I got a nice score coming to me right before the Breeders' races start. And I already started working on my middle pick 5. Now, I had coverage in the middle pick 5. But I really needed this horse to give a big run for me. What happens? If you weren't watching, go to Del Mar from Friday, race 5, and watch the replay. They'll show it. Gate opens. Horse face goes to the dirt. Juan Hernandez is thrown off. Now, as a horse player, is there anything more, I don't want to say stressful because it happens immediately, so you don't get a chance to be stressed. But it's just disheartening to have so much going on a particular race and then a wonderful jockey who you feel is perfect for the horse gets thrown off the horse 4 feet after they break out of the gate. So that happened. However, the 2 won the race, and I was still alive in the pick 5. A nice pick 5, because I did something smart, because it was going to be the Breeders' Cup races, the next 3. So it was pick 5, race 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, 4, the middle pick 5. I think what? No, it was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Correct. I got to say it right. So I'm still alive in the pick 5, and now we're getting set for our Breeders' Cup showdown. Well prepared, lots of focus, 5 juvenile races, big fields, big screen TV, no interruptions, fueled and ready to go. So in race 6, I was on, and by the way, I'll say the name of the race too. This was the Juvenile Turf Sprint. And my winner made a run mid-pack, but ultimately didn't get the best ride. I was on Havana Anna. It didn't work out, but I had good coverage, and my second choice ended up winning the race, Sci-Fair. Now, I'm mentioning that because when Sci-Fair won, I was disappointed where I lost my win bet on the 8 and my double that I had alive on the 8, but I still hit my double going forward with the 10. So basically it was a wash because I had more money on the 8. But here's where my story gets really interesting. So now I'm 4 for 4 on a pick 5 that I was really creative with. I didn't want it once or twice. I didn't even want it 3. I wanted it 4 times. So I had a same ticket punched 4 times because you never know what it's going to pay. And I don't like too much on one ticket sometimes. So anyway, it wasn't thousands. It wasn't 20,000. But I knew the probable. The will pay showed $422. And you times that by 4, it's a pretty penny. You know, it's going to put you in the area of $1,700. So I'm confident because now we're going to move on to, I got all my marked up forms here, so I figured I won't mess up the show as I recap the day. So this was the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Now, you know, you do the work, and you know your ray of confidence based on your work. You know, I'm always confident with every race, but I really felt strong with this race because I did not like Tommy Joe. And I felt that Explorer with J.J. Hernandez on, again, was going to be a decisive winner. I just felt he was primed, she was primed to take care of business. Now, sometimes you say, now I played a strong 7. Remember, I'm alive, last leg of the middle pick 5, and I played the 4 underneath in exactas. So I got 7-4, and then a 7-4, 1-5, and 7-4-5-1 superfectas, and I keyed it as well. So I got everything going on a 7. 7 breaks out, gets position. He's sitting right there. You got to watch this race because there's one observation, and I could be wrong, but I think I'm right here. So, and I'm not taking anything away from the connections of Super Corridora. You know, it was a beautiful looking filly, daughter of Gunrunner. I have a lot of respect for John Sadler, and Hector Berrios knows how to ride at Del Mar or Santa Anita better than anybody, especially on the lead. I felt that he would make an early presence, but I did not like the horse. So when I went through my my handicapping, One of the reasons why I eliminated the horse, because the horse was second race off a layoff, which I like, but the horse just graduated, and the buyers were on the lower side of the scale. So, 3 maiden specials. She was off since last August. She ran in July and August. A layoff to, October 1st. I got to get the light on this. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm right. So the horse, 3 weeks later, after just graduating, they put the filly in the Breeders Cup Juvenile Fillies. And I'm saying to myself, you know what? Even if she ran well, which I felt she would, and then fold late, and we can't always be right, but I had every reason to say, you know what? There are some pretty good fillies in this race that have already been stakes placed and have won stakes races. There are horses that stretched out, and I was shorting the right horse because I knew he'd take money as an underlay. That's Johnny V's horse for Pletcher. So I short the right horse. I'm all in on Explorer. And here's what I saw in the race. Excuse me. And I'm not angry. I'm just frustrated. And sometimes I go back and I say to myself, maybe I should have at least used Super Corridor in my pick 5. It wouldn't have mattered because there's more to the story. I would have hit the pick 5, the middle one. But my goal was to play that pick 5, play it 4 times, have the other races well covered, and then single Explorer. So it was perfect timing for me to have a big hit with the rest of the Juvenile Friday races to go. And here's the one thing I saw. Juan Hernandez, he's got all the experience in the world on the West Coast, Del Mar, Santa Anita, and so on. He knows Hector Berrios. He knows he's got horse. And he did have horse. And sometimes if you have a short stretch like you have at Del Mar, timing is everything. It's not like he was saving ground. He had a whole 1/8 of a mile to eventually pass the horse, and he couldn't. But you know why? He's got to make an aggressive move. A second or two beforehand, which is numerous strides. If he eyeballs that horse, urges and asks his horse to go by, and now Berrios' horse, Super Corridoro, who's now the Juvenile Filly champion, now she's going to be tested. The fractions were fast. You got to move alongside, ask, and a lot of time when a young 2-year-old horse gets eyeballed, they lose a little concentration. They lose a step. In my opinion, especially because I saw how much he still had left in the stretch, I felt like he could have won the race with as much respect I have for J.J. Hernandez. When he fell off that horse earlier, that's just a freak accident. I just felt like a better ride, a typical J.J. Hernandez ride. If that was Antonio Frizzou, who also rides on the West Coast, I think just based on a lot of race reviews I've watched with him, I think that's what he would have done. You can't let a horse on the lead get brave and steal a race like that. All the credit in the world to John Sadler and Hector Berrios because the fractions were hot and that horse finished well, 1 mile and a 16th. Give credit where credit's due. I just felt from a time decisiveness, I could have won that race, and it changes my entire day. So maybe you guys can relate to that. All right, let's move on. We get to the 8th race, which is the Breeders Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. Now, I go back to my handicap and I say, okay, excuse me, I'm all over the 9, Time to Dream, and Johnny V on the Ultimate Love. I have those two with me in my late pick 3, and I need them desperately in the all turf pick 3, which was a $3 minimum, and I already had hit the first turf race because I used the 8 and the 10 in the first leg. That's where Sci-Fair won with IRAD. So I got a $12 start winner, and now I'm 2 deep, and then I'm 3 deep in the last race, which I would have eventually hit because I used the 14 as well. Wait till you hear what I have to say about the last race. But what happened in this race, when you lose, you lose. You know, it happens, and sometimes you get your ass kicked. But what happened here is I have the 10 and I have the 12. Bombs away, both of them. But I have them underneath my superfecta key, my triple key, and an exactas, because I always say, read the board. I had them underneath the 9 and the 1. The 9 and the 1 are not there, but the 10 and the 12 are there together. The 10 pays like $44. Ocean Murphy. And the 12 is second, close strong for second. Both Europeans I saw in race review who I felt, could easily make it into the triple of superfecta underneath. They run 1-2, and it's a $340 exacta. I don't have anything on it. I tore up all my tickets that race. Frustrated because you know something? Sometimes those window decisions matter because the all turf pick 3, which was 10, 10, 14. If I just used the 10 in the middle leg, you know what that all turf pick 3 paid? It paid $1,900 on a $3 bet. Now, I played a $54 ticket, but if I increased that ticket to a bean, I could have hit it, paid $1,900. It's not like when I had to fish for the horses. Those were my 2 long shots. And sometimes you anticipate who's going to be an overlay and who's going to be an underlay. And if, I call like it is. I didn't have him in my pick 3, and I didn't use them in my exactas on top, but I used them both underneath. And again, emotions, frustrations, part of the game, right? Let's move on. That's what happened in race 8. So now race 9 comes. What a race, too. What a race. And I'll give credit where credit's due. So the 9th is the big race. We have Brandt and we have Ted Nafi. All right? Now, most people and most handicappers were probably in a position to like one or the other or both. Okay? So I'm going to turn to my script on this. I got everything printed out. So Brandt gets out, razor sharp. I'm feeling good about Brandt. To be honest with you, I didn't use both in my pick 5. I used Brandt only in my pick 5, but my pick 5 was dead. But I used both these guys, one strong, one in a saver, in a daily double with the last race. And I had 2 exactas. So what was really frustrating, because obviously if you follow the game, you know the world of talent that Ted Nafi has. But in a race like that, especially after I believe there was a scratch. He had scratched out my third choice, the 2. For the most part, it was either going to be the 7 or the 8. So I did play a skillful superfecta key, but I went heavy on it with Brandt on top. And the 3, who ended up closing in the final strides, I used him after the 2 was scratched. So I had 7, 8, 3, 6. I had the super if Brandt won. But Ted Nafi beat him on a square. That is, folks, obviously, you don't need to be a rocket scientist or a horse racing, thoroughbred racing enthusiasts to the highest regard to know that Ted Naffy is already the undeniable initial future pool favorite for the Kentucky Derby this spring, first Saturday in May. What do you call it? So Ted Naffy beat him. You get beat, you get beat. So I took one on the chin that race because I was more in 75% in on Brant. I did use Ted Naffy in my daily double with the next race, but that was an exciting race. Naffy just proved to be the better horse. Give a lot of credit to Pletcher, Johnny V, and Spendthrift Farms, because they got another killer again. You know, it's a real nice looking animal too. All right, let's go to the finale. So in the finale, maybe turn to my finale so I get the name of the race right. It's the $2 million Juvenile Turf, 1 mile. Okay. Again, I dug down deep in my handicap. And those who follow me, you know what I wrote. I wrote a very big piece on the horse I liked a lot in the race. I got the wrong paper in front of me. Let me just get him. I believe his name was Argos. Yes, Argos. So I'm on 9, 13, 14, 2. And then I got a bunch of horses underneath that I was going to make a game time decision based on what the board was reading. So I knew where I was during the course of the day. I won on the undercard. I had some frustrating bad beats, gut-wrenching losses. When Juan Hernandez couldn't get that horse past Hector Berrios on the lead. Then Juan Hernandez falling off, falling off. I should have brought my water with me. Falling off his mount at the gate. And nothing is more, what I call it, demoralizing. If that's a word, we got to look it up. But nothing gets you and gives you a gut punch is when you got everything riding on a horse and you're hooked up with, will pays, and then a jockey falls off the horse leaving the gate. Disheartening. That's what I said before, disheartening. So in the final race, I'm on Argos. Now, I said a lot about this horse in my write-up. I can't tell you everything I said, but in race review, I just loved his acceleration. I loved all of his races leading to this Breeders' Cup event. And Pratt was on him. And I knew the 14 was a powerhouse coming from Europe, Justad. But I knew the fact that he was the 14 hole, and there were 14 horses in a race, maybe, just maybe, he won't get a clean run. Obviously, that's not what happened. He not only was the best horse in a race, but he got a very clean run. But my 9 breaks out of the gate. I didn't expect him to be on the lead, but I expect him to have a good break. He broke in a bunch. Pratt, I'm not saying Pratt panicked. He brought him to the inside because, ironically, the horse ran on the inside in 2 of his last 3 races and came out of it wonderfully, and then showed this amazing acceleration and turn of foot in the stretch. And that's what I envisioned. So I made a fairly large bet on Argos. And halfway through the race, I knew he was going to have a run, but I just knew the amount of horses racing that Pratt was in a lot of trouble. And then when they were turning for home, I knew I was dead. I saw what a 14 was, and I knew I was dead. And I was all in on the 9. So we take it on the chin. I take pride in the work I completed because I worked so hard at it. And you know something? When you're very intense and you're very focused, you love when things unfold precisely how you anticipated them to unfold, almost crystal ball-like. And that's why it's discouraging when it doesn't happen and when there's circumstances beyond your control. And that's what I tell you guys. I said, listen, we love the game, and there's nothing more exciting than the big days. And we have a whole slate of racing tomorrow. 9 Grade 1 Breeders Cup Championship races on Championship Saturday. So what I'm going to say, if you guys watching this video, I'm going to post it tonight. You'll see it tomorrow. Hopefully you're watching. I want to be entertaining. If you're not entertained, then shut it off. But for those watching, in the comments of this, I'm going to give you my precise orders only for the undercard races. I can't do it for the Breeders' Cup races. And the reason why I haven't been public with my selections, because I wrote a rather extensive, in-depth analysis that I have a following that, you know, they understand that a few times a year, especially with these types of events, the work I put into it, it's a separate arrangement being made. So I can't share that stuff. This wouldn't be fair. But I'm going to share some undercard information. And hopefully tomorrow, I'm always optimistic. I really am. Remember, game planning is essentially important. And I feel like I'm going to have, you know, the gun loaded. I'm going to be ready to rock and roll. My focus is going to be there. And I want to have a very energetic, emotional, hopefully I don't absorb the gut-wrenching losses or the frustration of losing a jockey out of the gate, or having a full eighth of a mile to pass a horse that is on the lead going 22 and 45, and you know you got a lot of horse, but he can't get past him. You know, it's just, I had a lot of fun, but none of us like to lose. And when I tear up tickets that I knew I was right there, right, you know, listen, if you play multiples and you got a nice price horse and a daily double and you don't hit the double, you're not happy. It's frustrating. But when you go 4 for 4 and you're loaded in the pick 5 and you single a horse and he's right there, and you know you got a horse and you know the horse on the lead could very well be getting tired, but what happens? The filly is a daughter of a gun runner. You got Brave on the lead, and I knew that was happening too at the 16th place. So you can't get to him. So that's all part of the game. You know, bad trips. You know, think about this for tomorrow. And one thing that's different tomorrow than today. Today is Juvenile Friday, and they're babies. Some of them are a lot more mature. What's that word? Precocious. They behave a certain way, and you know they're more professional. And many of the others that I used to being in a bunch like that. One thing to keep in mind for tomorrow, because this is important stuff. Today was pretty speed favoring. Think about the horses that were on the lead, and nobody really got caught. We'll see how it is tomorrow. But tomorrow's a different slate because you got all the championship races in the divisions, and they're all seasoned older horses. Many seasoned mares, great colts, you know, just you know what the schedule is, all right? And, you know, I'm fired up, you know, because when they get me, I want to get them back. So I want to say thank you for watching. By the way, if anybody needs my recipe for my SETI stuffed peppers, I'm a big foodie, and I do a lot of cooking in the kitchen. Here I am after midnight. It's got to be after 1 o'clock in the morning. And you know what? I'm going to touch up some of my cap. And I got the whole card capped. But remember my observations from today. And with those observations, you sort of game plan maybe a little differently tomorrow. Same type of aggressiveness and decisiveness. You know, I just know it. I know it in my heart. I'm going to really pop something strong tomorrow. And I do have I do have some races where the horse I like to take it all is in the area greater than 10 to 1. So those are going to be my races where I know the overlay is inevitable, because they shouldn't be that much of a price, but I think they will be, because there are ingredients or findings that maybe the public won't be aware of. That's what we do, right? All right, guys. Thank you for watching. If you watched the World Series tonight, I hope you enjoyed it. There's going to be plenty more material, even after the Breeders' Cup. Yeah, we're going to go into a no with the holidays. I'll do some deep dives on this channel. Big race day at maybe Aqueduct. Maybe, a big card, even at Woodbine, or, we'll get some activity going. And of course, in January, there's going to be the Pegasus, and that's a huge day. And, then we fire up the enthusiasm going into the spring, the Kentucky Derby trial. That trail, all the big tracks, all the big prep races. But we know one thing, and nobody could disagree with it today. Ted Naffy, or is it, Ted Naffy, Ned Toffee. That's a great name for the guy who runs Spendthrift Farms. We know he, right now, is the undeniable, unquestionable Kentucky Derby favorite. Long way to go, but the future pools, he'll be favored. He's 4 for 4, and he's run 4 perfect races. Perfect races. I was very impressed with him today. I wish I was on him. I like his opponent more, Brent, but, we move forward. All right, guys, let's go get him tomorrow. Any questions? You want the peppers recipe? You have a question about one of the races tomorrow? I'll be on in the morning, and I will give you an answer. I appreciate you taking part of this Focus to the Finish with Gio Steady YouTube channel. All right? God bless you. God bless your families. And yeah, let's go get